Good evening, everybody. My name is Jan Roberts, and I am a mentor in Amy Carrier's classroom. And today is the 16th of September. Doesn't time fly? And tonight I will be talking about values of a great leader and the very foundations of leadership, as far as I'm concerned. But we'll wait a little bit for some more people to come online. And I'm excited to share with you again tonight, as I always am. And also, as we're going to be talking about values, I would love for you to comment, put it in the comments box, ask questions. Tell me about the values you think are important as a leader, and the values you think leaders are lacking, because it's not just important about where is this. Okay. Arthy's on already, I see. But yeah, so, if you have any ideas, any opinions, anything at all about what you think is important as a value to have as a leader, and what you think is important where values are actually lacking, and any questions you might have about this subject tonight, just join us, ask questions, stretch me. But it's great to be in Amy Carrier's classroom. I think we've now got close to 6,100 people around the world in nearly 100 countries, which is exciting. So I'm saying good evening, but it's probably good morning, good afternoon, good evening, even good night for some of you. And from anywhere from China to Japan to Pakistan to the Netherlands, my home country originally. I am in South Africa now. And I love it to see people from all kinds of countries here joining us. And this is I've had a few lessons about leadership. I think this will be the fifth one now, and we talked about what kind of leader I am, as we're all leaders anyway. The intentional leadership and influence of a leader. We talked about women. Hi, my daughter Nicola is watching as well. And I think she's still spending some time with her friends, so lovely to see her as well. And Salam Ali, great to see you too. And yeah, this is the fifth lesson in the leadership track. I might have another one on up my sleeve for next week. But I've also got some different subjects which have got a lot to do with communication, coaching, speaking, presenting, youth leadership, which is also very important, because let's face it, our youth are our leaders of tomorrow, and to be able to provide them with some of the skills and tools they need to become the great leaders of tomorrow we really could do with today is very important. And also about finding your why, your purpose. So yeah, there is a lot of subjects coming up in the future, but if you were actually fortunate enough to listen last night, where my partner Arthur Moore, who's also one of the mentors in Amy Carrier's classroom, who talked about, great to see you too, Nicola, and Luciano, wonderful to see you too. And she talked about compassionate leadership. Boa noite, Leila, good to see you. And she talked about compassionate leadership, something she's very passionate about. And if you, we had visitors at the time, so she was a bit late, so I spent time with the visitors while Arthur was online. But of course, I went through the whole session this morning, and I typed up some comments as well, which we normally do for each other. But it's an amazing subject, and compassion is very important as a leader. And I think it's another part of a foundation of great leadership. And if you have missed out on that session alone, it is absolutely worth going back and listen to it again. It's about 45 minutes of your time, and time well spent, may I say so, because I get inspired by other people. And we, apart from Arthi, we've got people like Leyland, who's talking about how to become better at video and all the modern technology online. Alex Bertland, he is in Sweden, and he talks about cryptocurrency. We've got people talking about youth development. People are talking about entrepreneurship. We've got now a lady, she's online tonight already, Leila, who's on a Friday. Amazing programs as well. So if you're already part of Amy Carrier's classroom or you want to become part of it, go and join. Go to Amy Carrier's classroom. You've got to answer 3 simple questions. And after doing so, you become part of a growing group of people from around the world, which Amy is put together. She's had a vision that we will have 100,000 people online within the next year. And, this is going to happen because there is more and more people from all kinds of countries around the world who are coming on, who are interested in getting information, not just from a YouTube video, not just from Googling, but real life people like us. There is, I think, 12 of us, not the dirty dozen, there's 12 of us from around the world, from Israel, Pakistan, Brazil, South Africa, the United States of America, Canada, Sweden. There is one of our mentors is roaming around China in the Far East. But, every one of them has got very interesting subjects we can all learn from, and I'm sure you can as well. But the great thing is that when you come online, you can come and join us, not only to listen to what we've got to say, because it's for us a privilege and an honor to share with you, but come and stretch us, because we don't know all there is to know about the subjects we talk about. We know maybe a little bit more, and we know different stuff, but we love for you to start asking questions from us, and I can guarantee you, there's going to be times that we say, I don't know, but we will find out, and we will post in the comments box below in the next couple of days afterwards to actually come. Argentina, wonderful. Luciano is from Argentina. Welcome here, and it's I've been in your beautiful country. And it's amazing to see people again from around the world here, and welcome. And I hope we're going to start in the next few minutes. We're waiting. It's 8 minutes past, so we'll wait till 10 minutes past, and then I will get started. And it's a privilege for me to be able to share with you. And yes, in a Spanish-speaking country, it's wonderful to have you there. I've spent a lot of time in your neighboring country as well, Brazil. And I know you're both great footballing nations, and there is a great rivalry there. Let's say that at least. But yeah, welcome. I appreciate you being here, and please share it with other people as well. And I look forward to seeing many more people. I know there's already a few more people from Argentina in the group as well. But it's great to see people from Argentina. So welcome. Buenas noches. I believe it's night. Is it nighttime there? I don't know, because we're flying across from Africa towards Argentina, and I know from here, from South Africa, we can't even fly directly to Argentina. I think we have to fly into Sao Paulo, and from Sao Paulo into Buenos Aires or any of the other Argentinian airports. But yeah, it's wonderful country as well. So yeah, we are nearly at that time. We've got 1 more minute. So welcome everybody who's here, and I think we'll just get started right now. So hold on, I'll make sure that we stay online. Yeah, that's that. So today we're going to be talking about values of a great leader, and for me, see, there's Brazil. I just talked to Luciano, and now Leila from Brazil is here as well. Of course, she's one of the mentors, one of the new mentors in this classroom. And again, she is an amazing person. She's got a lot of wisdom, like most of the mentors, like all of the mentors have amazing wisdom they take to this classroom, and they're willing to share around the world. So it's wonderful. Thank you for joining us. But we're talking about, for me, I've talked about a lot of areas about leadership, but there is so much. As if you've been involved in leadership, I mean, one of my friends and mentors, John Maxwell, he's written more than 110 books about the subject. Now, and he's not the only one. There is so many great people who talk and discuss this kind of leadership subject, but sometimes it's very confusing. It says, where do we start? I want to become a great leader, but how do I do this? And you've got pictures in your head of great leaders in the past, like Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, Mother Teresa, our very own here in South Africa, Madiba, the late Nelson Mandela. And there is so many more great leaders. But when we think about great leaders, we don't always have to think about these figureheads in countries and huge organizations. You can probably find people in your own communities, in your own companies, who are great leaders. I've had the privilege of meeting some amazing people, and I'm sure you have as well. And on the other side, we have met people who are maybe lacking a bit. Now, we're not going to be into name calling and all that. You have your own examples. We don't want to get into political discussions or into any other discussion for the matter. You know for yourself who are not so good. Now, the question there is, where are some of the problems in leadership? Now, Les Brown, another friend and mentor of mine, an amazing gentleman, he says, evil prevails when good men and women do nothing. Well, he said good men are nothing, but I mean we're uniting. Ladies and gentlemen are uniting and collaborating together. As something Artie talked about a lot as well. But something else he says is leadership is failing worldwide. He says it's not just if you're listening from a particular country or watching this from a particular country. It's not just in any particular country or any particular community. It is failing worldwide. And he says it's because of a lack of values. Now, there's a problem. Because there is a lot of leadership skills. See, leadership is not something we're born with. You know, we are born naked, crying, and filling nappies. And it's the same as, again, Les Brown says as well, we're as much born a leader as we're born as heart surgeons. So and the good thing is, we can learn all this kind of stuff. But as much as we can learn all these skills, values is something that is very little taught in leadership classes. You know, we talk about all the different skills, and there's a range of them. I talked about them, you know, how to become a leader, intentional leadership, influential leadership, all this kind of stuff we can talk about, and I can show you plenty books where, I mean, I have experienced a lot of stuff in leadership through my career, as well as meeting amazing people around the world in leadership, so I've been privileged in that way. But still, we can learn a lot of stuff, but values. Now, and I know when we're going to start talking about values, any values are good as leaders, but which values especially do you think, and I'm asking, do you think that makes a great leader? You know, and don't look only at the big leaders in countries or the world leaders, but even in your communities, even in companies, in your friend circle. If you have people who exude leadership and have great values, what are they? Take it a little bit further. We actually do a training as well, and we talk about becoming a leader of influence. And we talk about values. And there is we ask people to go and start group discussions about what kind of values would you like as a leader for the people to have in your company. Now, that's a very interesting conversation, because we leave these people and the conversations are huge. I mean, people keep talking about all the kind of stuff, and then eventually we ask feedback from the groups, and then they talk about all the values, and every single one a champion. Single one will make a better leader, and there's a list. So if we've got about 5 or 6 groups with 5 people each, we can probably, and we ask them for 3 or 4 each, we could probably get a total list of about 10 to 15. So then I ask, now every single one of them are amazing, and it's wonderful that you actually have discussed this, and that's what you see as small groups to come up. Now we're talking about not only leadership at the top, like global leaders, but let's take this back a little step, because those are the values you would like the people in your organization to have. So take that back a step. And when I said my first lesson was about what kind of leader am I, because we are all leaders. And you can see some of the heads going, and I say, so if we are all leaders, and you know what's coming next, how many of these values do you have? And things go a little bit quiet at times, and you know, we laugh about it a bit, but it is true. Do we always expect others to have values that we are maybe not as good at, let us put it that way? And let's face it, we all have areas in different parts of leadership that we can improve on, but if we're talking about values now, and are we really as good at it, or do we expect other people to have things in our organization and yet we don't practice what we preach? So I think sometimes the first place we need to, yes, look at the great values you want leaders to have. The leaders you admire, the leaders maybe you don't admire because they don't have them, and then ask yourself, how many of those values am I really great at? And you can answer that for yourself, and it's not a question of saying, oh, you must be better. No, I am included in this. I have areas where I fall short, and I need reminding as well. And when I look at these kind of things, I say, yes, this one. And we have an amazing process called values-based leadership, which is really the most amazing personal development program where we actually work with values every week. And when I do these kind of things, there is sometimes I look at these values and understand them a bit better, and I think, yes, and you score yourself from a 1 to the 10, and I'm not an 8, 9 or never a 10, but I'm not a 7, 8 or a 9 all the time. Sometimes I am a 4 or a 3, because sometimes we need to realize that we can all be better in some parts, and we need to know what it is and become better at it. Now, there is a difference. See, we can't mix up values and competencies. And there is a guy called, he's a worldwide coach, and his name escapes me right now. But he has a program where they interview people from around the world in leadership. Hi Kubashni, great to see you. Welcome. Yes. See, Marshall Goldsmith, and he's got a coaching program, and he works with competencies. Now there is 15 competencies they found out that leaders really appreciate and really need to become good in their leadership, and that's a whole coaching kind of program. So and these cover, there is 15 of them in total, and they cover areas such as communication, where you're talking about encouraging constructive dialogue. Engaging people, where we talk about sharing leadership, and continuous change, where you talk about anticipating opportunities and leading change. Now, I am seriously thinking about maybe next week talking about competencies of a great leader, to really address this a little bit more, because it's also very important. And competencies sometimes actually interact and intertwine very much with values, but not necessarily always the same, but also areas where we need to be aware of and get sharper of. But if we go back to values, and something that amazes me sometimes when we walk into corporations, you walk into the entrance hall of a beautiful corporation, and they have a list of values, the company values. Now, sometimes the people who chose these kind of values are a chosen few. There's a small group at the top. They think that those are the values that everybody should live up to, and that is actually and they expect buy-in from most of the people. I will explain a little bit more about all this kind of stuff, but they expect buy-in. Now, we ask them what those values actually are, and the vast majority can maybe mention 1 or 2 of the values, but not all of them. Sometimes they've got 7 or 8 and even more values on that list. Wonderful to see when you walk into there. Sometimes I'm a bit surprised when honesty is one of them, because these values on the walls are usually there for people. They want people to aspire to those values. Now my question is, if you've got honesty on the wall, do you actually hope that people will aspire to become honest, or do you actually expect people to be honest when they walk in the front door in the first place? So there's a question all by itself. Hi Amy, welcome. Good to see you here. Now this is Amy Carrier from Amy Carrier's Classroom. She started this whole movement, and I told you earlier on there is quite a few of our mentors in here now, and you know we've got the pleasure of being part of this whole mentorship team. And she had a vision of starting this off, and 100,000 people, it's coming. So yeah, but then if you are going to choose values within an organization, excuse me, let me take a little bit of water. Values within an organization that are meaningful and everybody buys into that, would it not even make sense to actually ask? Do a survey in the organization and find out what all these values are that people appreciate and people want to see in their organization. Then we'll have maybe a little bit more buy-in. And I've thought about this over the last week as well, since my last session, and I thought, what kind of values might be important? What kind of values are there that people would appreciate? And I have just come up with a small list of them. And there's within our values-based leadership process, we've got 45 values. But I've come up with a small list that might be important for leaders, and if we're all leaders, that might be important to you and me as well. Integrity. Now, what is it and how do we even do that? Honesty. There's the one I just talked about. Respect. Transparency. Understanding people. Developing people. Attitude. And listening. Now that's only a very small list, and I know you can add to it. Hey Taffy, wonderful to see you, man. It's always great to see you online. I know you were online with Artie last night as well, and joined us. And thank you for joining us again. A great friend and a very knowledgeable person, also a fellow John Maxwell team member, and always great to see you, Taffy. Welcome. So these are all great values. Alex, there you are. I've talked about you already, and here's another one of our mentors online. Welcome from Sweden, all the way from Sweden. The colder north, as I call it just now, and as you can see, I've got a bit of a panda eyes. We were out watching some wonderful, what was it, a go-kart, a boxcar race downhill, when there was about 70 odd of these going down the hill and all kinds of obstacles. But it was sunny and I had sunglasses on, so I look a bit like a panda. So yeah, sunshine. But these are all great values. But do we know what they really are, what they mean, and how can we improve them in our personal lives? Because regardless whether organizations put them on the wall or whether we actually get a list of them and say, we need to actually buy into these values because the company wants us to buy into this and that makes us a better company. But regardless, do we even know what these values really are? And I'm delighted to see you here as well, Taffy. Thank you. We quite often talk about, you need to have or be or become, but we never give the tools. I mean, I saw it a long time ago about bullying, where schools actually go into zero tolerance for bullying. But most people don't know. Hi Debbie, great to see you too. But most people don't know how to go about it. And values are exactly the same. They don't give any guidelines. So take integrity it's always a great example, because Arthi, and she teaches us in a diversity awareness programs as well. And she says, it is, and I became more aware of this because she's a great teacher to me too. And that integrity means something totally different in African communities than it actually means in the business world. But yet they say you need to have more integrity, you need to have more transparency. They don't tell you how to do it, they don't tell you exactly what they mean. So we all think we understand this from our own perspective, but yet we might have a totally different view, even though deep down we mean the same. But when it's totally different, we can't start to understand each other, and we think nobody has integrity because we're not on the same page. And that is with a lot of things. Understanding people, transparency. What is that all about? So to have all these kind of things, it is a nice to have, but we really need to sit down with our organization when we have, it doesn't matter whether we've got 5 values or we've got 40 values, we need to find out that we really we are on the same page. We have chosen this with the organization, whether it's a community, whether it's a church, whether it's a school, it doesn't matter whether it's even in family life. These are the values that are important to our family. Now, when you've got a list, and however small or big the list is, now we're going to start discussing what are they? What are the benefits of having them? What are the characteristics of somebody who has them? And how can we follow some steps that we get better at them? And that's why values-based leadership, this personal, this sustainable people development is so powerful, because that's exactly what it does. And we need to understand it better. I always say to people, and we've talked about leadership over the last 5 sessions, we can provide you with solutions to your leadership problems. And those leadership problems, they can be big or small, whatever, we will be able to provide you with a solution. But it goes much further. I always ask people in an organization, would you buy a house in a swamp without a solid foundation? You wouldn't buy a house anywhere without a solid foundation, I know that. So, leadership is the same. Values are that solid foundation, because if we look back at what I said earlier, the reason leadership is failing worldwide at every level and every part of the organization, at every sphere of influence, it is because of a lack of values. And once you've got a foundation of values, that's why I also think that we need to, it's not about teaching values, I call it a reawakening of an awareness of values. Now I say that again, if you just missed that, a reawakening of the awareness of values. Because we all heard about integrity, transparency, attitude, listening. Now listening is a great one, by the way, because we all think we're listening very well, don't we? How well do we really listen? How often are we busy starting to think about something that we want to say next, and we don't even listen what the last person says? How often do we say yes and we actually haven't got a clue what was just said? I mean, if we got a test after we've been at a meeting, most of us would fail that test because we're so busy trying to say something, we're so busy trying to impress the boss, we're so busy trying to do other things because we've got a schedule that we need to keep. We don't listen. We hear things, but we don't listen. A big difference. And to become more aware, just that simple but powerful skill. As leaders, if we can listen better to our children, to our family, to our community people. In Africa, the African principle of leadership is where not only the leaders come in last, but where they sit around in a group, and the leader lets everybody talk first, and then they talk. The leaders talk last. Now, Simon Sinek has a book, and it's called Leaders Eat Last. And that is also something that it goes back to army and all that kind of stuff, but it is where a lot of the time we're in organizations where the leader is the person who knows it all, and they feel they need to talk and talk and talk, and everybody else needs to listen, and did you understand? Yes, and they go away and they say, what's happened here? I will address this very much more in my coaching areas, which will come soon as well, where I talk a lot more about listening and the value of asking questions. But if we go to the very heart of leadership, it is serving people. But taken these few values I mentioned into consideration, how can we serve people well when we don't listen? How can we serve people when we are not transparent ourselves? Vulnerability. Arthi mentioned it last night in depth, so I won't go into it because listen to Arthi's talk. That was far better than I can ever say it, but vulnerability comes into this. So it's very important. But hey, Ethan, great to see you too. Wonderful to have you here. But when people talk about character and they talk about vision. Now, there is something you need to know about the difference between character and vision. And I think it might have been John Maxwell who said it first, but it's certainly been said, and I credit my friend I mentor John for it. He says, character eats vision for breakfast. And there's a reason for this. Because vision is what you do. Character is who you are. Now, vision is what you do, because that's, if you've got a vision, you need to carry on to get into that area where, we have a vision, a purpose, we need to fulfill this, so it's stuff you do. But character is who you are. And I always say, when I talk about youth, and I will say that children and animals know exactly where you're at. You can't fool them. But character, who are you really? When you stand in front of your people, when you sit in a board meeting, when you sit in a room full of people, when you address your people and you have issues that need to be addressed, how good are you really in your character? And character, it's a combination of values, ethics and principles. So it's all together. But who are you really? I'll take this a little bit further and says, when you compare character and reputation, if I asked you which one would be more important, character or reputation, what would you say? Now I hope that once you get to understand the big differences of it, that the character is more important. Because a reputation, the difference between character and reputation is that reputation is who other people believe you are. That's their perception, the stories they heard about you, the things they've read about you, the way they know you because they interacted with you. But it is who they believe you are. But character is who you know you are. Now there's the big difference. And yes, there is a certain importance, because if everybody talks about you be in a certain way which is negative in your reputation, then it's not going to help you much. And probably there is there might be some truth if everybody talks about it. But you really know deep down who you are. You really know what you're all about. And yes, we can all improve, and we must all do our best, because we can't stop. If you look at my Facebook, it says I'm in the University of Life. And I mean it sincerely. I will read every day. I will do things every day to improve me. Because when we work with people, I think the best thing we can do is improve ourselves. So we become better. And you can fill in that gap. Better leaders, better communicators, better at building relationships. All these kind of things are important. But who are you really? What kind of values are important to you? What kind of person do you want to become? Because you are today where you are. You can't change where you were in the past. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, and hopefully from the past we've learned important lessons, and that's why you are right now where you are. But what values are close to you? Could you actually not only, if I called you right now, could you say, well, these are the top 3 or the top 5 values that are really important, non-negotiable, by the way, in my life? integrity, transparency, attitude. I talked about it before, and I believe even Amy actually put it in the comments box below. But I talked about Viktor Frankl about attitude, how important it is that we can choose our own attitude, because the same way we can choose our own attitude, we can choose our own values. See, thoughts become actions, actions become habits, and habits become our destiny. Now, that is the case, and I'm not even if that's the case, but that is the case. So when we take that and we repeat that every week, because we want people to know, when we actually work with values, we repeat that every week. It's actually in our weekly process of working through the values in small groups. But that being so, working back. So if you want to know your destiny, then you need to change your habits. And there is some habits we can all maybe improve on, maybe not to necessarily change, maybe that's a bit hard, but improve on and change. So rather than say thought become action, action become habits, and habits become your destiny, and it's longer than that, by the way, but keeping it simple. So if you want your destiny to become better, if you want to have a better future, if you want your purpose to be true to who you are, true to the character of who you really are, then can we not actually look at what are our habits? Can we improve some of our habits? Can we change some of our habits? And I know sometimes it's difficult, because take smoking, for example. People talk about diets and smoking, and it's a huge industry, and now people have these bottles full of smoke that they can blow into each other's face with some flavors, and it's already better for their health, I believe. And I wish they have bottles like that with fresh air, that you can just blow them into people's faces instead. But smoking. I used to smoke, and people said it must have been hard to stop. It is... I get it, some people struggle more, but what are you willing to do to improve your health? And I'm just talking about smoking just now. See, I knew it was not good for me, but for a long time actually, not for a while, for a long time I had no reason. I was in an environment in the oil industry where people smoked all the time, and it was taking a break with a cup of coffee and a cigarette, and habits. That's what I'm talking about. But eventually, I made that decision. See, thoughts become actions, actions become habits. So I had an action where I thought about it all the time. I knew that it wasn't good for me, and eventually I said, I want to live a much healthier life than I am just now. Yes, we know it's bad for you, but for a lot of people that's not a reason to stop, and it wasn't for a long time for me. So I seriously thought about it, and eventually I made that choice. It's not I'm going to try to stop smoking. No, I stop, because trying is not a good strategy in life. I always say, do you try to stand up, or do you actually stand up? Do you try to go through a door or actually go through? You do or you don't. And when you actually start to do things, rather than say I'm going to try this, I always say trying leaves the back door of failure wide open, so you can go back to where you were before, and people say, at least you tried. No, you do or you don't. And the same with habits. So if you want your destiny to be different than you think it's going to be right now, if you want to be more positive, because I don't think you want it to be worse, if you want it to be more positive, then look at where you are right now and where you are going right now. And goal setting is that's a whole lesson all by itself, but look where you are right now. And then, what actions are you taking? See, what habits have you got? Do you have to change some of them, or do you have to actually improve on some of them? What habits do you actually need to fulfill the destiny you really want to fulfill your purpose, to have something inside of you that you really want to do with the rest of your life to make a difference? And we can do that together, by the way. Together we will make a difference. Not only just as a small group of people. There is now more than 6,000 people in Amy's classroom, and I know when we get together, when we start discussing all the different subjects that are available right now, and there will be more, we will make a difference together. 100,000. When 100,000 people start coming on these calls regularly, and they start stretching us as mentors, they start asking questions, they start interacting with each other, they start learning from and with each other, we will make a difference in a much bigger scale. So then you go to actions. So for that to change, the habits to change, you need to take different actions. Because the actions you take at the moment have given you the results you have. And there are some people who don't even go that far. They have thoughts, dreams, wishes. And the big difference between actually things happening and things that just being out in their dreams is taking action. So my question to you at this point is, what actions? First of all, what dreams, what goals have you got? And what actions are you taking to fulfill that, to make a difference in your life? I'm actually talking in your life just now. Let's start with self, because we can't give what we haven't got. So how can I become a better person? How can I increase my values? How can I become a better leader? What actions do I need to take? And I'm asking you, what actions will you take? So for that to happen, you need to realize where you are just now. So look at these values again. Where we can change others. We can't change others. We can only change ourselves. And Nicola, see, I haven't even got my glasses on. I can read this. That's my daughter, of course. Yes, you're absolutely right. So being at that point, what values are important to you? How can you become better at those values? What actions can you take? What needs a change in your thinking? So, to go to thinking, that's another. I mean, I'll have a lesson on that, thinking for a change. There's a whole wonderful phenomena for some people, but it is how we think. And thinking alone doesn't do it. I mean, people sometimes say that, practice makes perfect, and it doesn't. Because if you practice things wrong and you don't learn from it, you only become more wrong. So where are we with our thinking? Do we need to improve our thinking? Do we need to associate with better people? Do we need to read more positive stuff? Do we need to watch more positive programs or just switch off the television altogether? What are we willing to do to become the person we can be? Because I'm looking right now, right at you. You can become all you can be, but you need to make that decision to start thinking different, to start taking action, to have better habits, to improve your habits, and to create that destiny for you, your family, your community, for everywhere that you want to improve. You can be the next Einstein. You can be the next Mahatma Gandhi. You can be the next Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King Jr. You can be whatever you want to be. But as I said last week, success is something that is always uphill, and it takes discipline. If you are willing to discipline yourself, and first of all finding out where you are, what habits you need to change, what habits you need to improve, and have that discipline on a daily basis. Because I said last week as well, success doesn't happen in a day, it happens daily. Values, changing your values, improving your values doesn't happen in a day. You wake up, oh, today I'm going to have integrity. Tomorrow, I'm not so sure. Yesterday, I was a bit dodgy. No. It takes daily practice. It takes getting involved for where you are. So, when I would like to tell you a little bit, as I've only about 10-15 minutes left. I hope you get the idea about character, about reputation, about vision. I hope you get an idea about some of the values that are important to you. I hope you get an idea about some of this stuff that is important to you. And when you look at leaders, when you look at whether it's family members, whether it's community leaders, whether it's leaders in your corporation, and you see people that you don't agree with because they don't have the same value system as you have or want to have. Nicola just said it, we can only change ourselves. So be, it's Gandhi, but be the change you want to see in the world. So if you don't like what other people do, look in the mirror. What can that guy or that lady in the mirror change about themselves today to become better? Now, I've had an amazing series of events in my life, and I just want to mention one just now, and it covers values. To give you an idea of what we can do as a group, what we can do as a people together, regardless of religious background, racial background, historical background, political affiliation, or even sports affiliation, because that really sometimes makes people disagree in a big way, to the point where they fight. As a group of people, as a people, what can we do? Now, I'm going to tell you this, and that's not to impress you, but that is to impress upon you how this kind of stuff, how values are so important. I had the privilege and pleasure in 2013, that's 5 years ago, to be asked to go and help start transformation in a country, of an entire country. And none of us knew what John Maxwell asked us. We didn't have a clue what we were going to do. And as Paul Martinelli, the president of the John Maxwell team, said, we were going to do something, somewhere, with some people, at some time, covering some subjects. That was it. Yet 150 people volunteered to do that something. Now, we came across there. We were there in 2013, and Guatemala is a country with 14 million people, and the average age is 20. I don't even have to tell you what the challenges are. You can make them up, and they have them. Now, what happened there for me was totally and utterly life-changing, because there they started a process called values-based leadership. And that means that they started on a weekly basis talking about values, understanding values in groups, getting excited because even though we talk about values, when we embody values on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, we become better people. And when we become better people, we can become better leaders. Now, we train 19,000 people to become facilitators in Guatemala in 3 days. It was in Spanish, so we had interpreters. Most of them was 15, 16, 17 years old, because average age was 20. On the way home, I quit my job. And, you can see these videos of what happened there. And, I still get goosebumps when I look at them, and 5 years later. And it says, values changed my life. Not that I didn't have any, but the impact of the significance. If you want a life of significance, I can guarantee you will find it. And we can help you with that. But we did this, and it's, as I say, it's not to impress you. I went there, and 150 of us went there, and it impacted every one of us. But I quit my job on the way home, and because I said this is part of. That's why values to me are so important, and I know they are so important because I see lives changing. We see, Artie and I, we see lives changing every single day because of values and people finally understanding how important they are in their lives. Finally, there's reawakening. They finally wake up to it and says, this is how we can change the world together. This is how we are a global organization with Amy Carrier's classroom now. We can do this together. We can embody the values we want to see in the world, improve on them, and do this. We went to Paraguay in 2016 in January, where we trained 17,000 leaders with 250 of us. A group, I wasn't part of it this time, a group early this year went to Costa Rica, trained 15,000 leaders. So within 3 countries, we have trained more than 50,000 leaders from all walks of life, every walk of life, from schools to prisons to government to corporations to churches, everywhere. And they are actually spreading this, and these countries are changing to the point that there is now 30 presidents want this movement to come into their countries. You can start this kind of stuff in your own communities, in your own families, that you start at least talking about the importance of values in your life, the importance of the values in the future of your children, because your children are the future. Our children are our future. So we can start actually talking to our children about all the differences and about what values really mean and how we can embody them and how can we incorporate them in everything we do. So when we come to the point where our children become the next CEOs, the MDs, the HR directors, become teachers, become leaders in government, become somebody, hopefully they're all going to become adults. And when they are grown into adults, they have got a solid foundation of values. So we will get leaders. We will get the leaders of tomorrow. We provide them with the skills and the tools today, so they can become the leaders of tomorrow we really need today. Because at the moment, leadership is failing worldwide. So just to recap, we've got a few minutes left, and if you've got any questions, please ask. If you haven't got them right now and you watch this call later and you've got any suggestions, any values, any comments altogether, put them in the comments box. Join us in this conversation. We need to keep this conversation. When we take compassionate leadership from last night, what Artie talked about, and we take values, and we take all these kind of things that people are talking about, and then we can all talk about it, because we've got people in our mentorship team who, in Amy's Careers Classroom, who can actually tell you how to actually do video, how to better present yourself online, how to work in entrepreneurship. You look at Amy Careers Classroom and you find all these different mentors at the moment who actually are willing and able to help you, and willing and able to learn from you as well. You are important to us. We want to share with you. We want to learn from you. We want to learn with you. And at the same time, we hope that we can provide you with some skills and tools that you can take forward, not only to keep for yourself, but to actually open up to your families. Start conversations around the dinner table, in the boardroom table, in the classroom. Start conversations. I know, I have learned, I have now got bigger insights into whether it's social media, whether it's youth development, whether it's all this other kind of stuff you can find in Amy Careers Classroom. Because Amy Careers Classroom, if you're not part of it yet and you watch this video because one of our mentors, one of our friends, one of the people who watch this shares this with you, you can come and join them. And there is a small vetting process, because all we want you to answer is 3 simple questions. About Amy has just put the link in the comments box below. Thank you, Amy. And Nam too, wonderful to see you here too. How to create a brand? Well, that's something else that we can really talk about, and we can discuss this. It's a program all by itself. But I would start with just being yourself, because you are the biggest brand and you are the biggest difference between everybody else. But start being yourself. And this is something. It's a great question, and thank you for it. And we'll have to discuss this because my time is just about over. But yes, any of our mentors already have some information for on this subject. Please put it in the comments box below and answer. But if you want to join, just answer 3 simple questions. Yes, you need to have your name in English, you need to have your picture, and you need to be able to at least talk a little English, that we can converse in English with you, even though it's an international classroom. I mean, there's people in here who just want to join us because they want to learn English. And with my accent, I hope that's possible for you too. But join us. I would love to see you again very soon. I've got a few minutes left. If you have any questions, ask. But yes, as Artie said as well, and she already put your name in there, Nam too, and asked a question. So hopefully you're going to get some more answers over the next week when people watch this, and we have people who work with branding as well. We're at the moment redeveloping our whole website and keeping the brand going. But yes, the first thing for me is being yourself. So everybody is already a business. Yeah, well, everybody has the opportunity and the possibilities to take themselves to wherever they want to. And if that is a business, yes. Not everybody wants to become an entrepreneur and work for somebody else. They might want to be actually working in an organization, and they're quite happy to work in an organization, one where the leadership works with values, where there is compassionate leadership, where actually the leadership actually embodies relationships and feels that they can offer a lot to the people. So there's a lot of people who want to do that. But yes, you can certainly become you Inc. as a business, and there is so much within the whole classroom. There is different people talking about branding, talking about entrepreneurship. So there is a lot of it, and I hope you will get some answers, but also join some of these other classes, these other mentors where they have a lot of these areas which will be addressed. And I say, branding is if you want a session on, I'm sure one of us at some point we'll actually do a whole session about it, because there is a lot of knowledge within this classroom, within the 12 mentors already, and I don't know if it's going to be addressed already, but I'm sure one of them is in an area where they are well known, and others will find it.
Nicholas got a very good statement.
What is it?
In the UK, values should be taught in prisons, as prisons can't cope with the number of offenders. I think values would help to cut down numbers of reoffenders.
Okay. I just saw it going past, but it went past too fast, and it was my very own daughter, by the way. But Artie just reminded me, because she's sitting here typing stuff as well. But she also says that in prisons as well, values should be taught, and I fully 100% agree, because it's happened in places like Colombia, where the whole prison system changed completely because of the values that were actually brought in. It started with the wardens, eventually went to the prisoners, and it's a whole story by itself, but a success story indeed, where the death rate, the murder rate inside the prisons, was decimated within just a few years. It was amazing, and you can find all this online somewhere. But values-based leadership did this, and she says there's a lot of people who are desperate for meaning in their life and for embodying these values, and that is in prisons, especially. It's not just in the UK, but I agree that my daughter is in the UK, and there is a lot of people who go to prisons and they come out and nothing changes, because there is no opportunity for them to learn those kind of things. And I think we've already seen this. It's being brought into a lot of these kind of environments where things are changing for people, because they finally find themselves and finally find the values that are important, that they never. It's not that they didn't know about them, but they didn't really know how they could improve themselves, what it was doing to them, and how they could actually embody them and become better people. It's a possibility, but values, they are the values of a great leader, and there's many, but as I said at the very beginning, our values are the foundation of any leadership. And I hope you agree with me, and I hope you're willing to look at yourself, that you've some of the information I've given you today. Oh, wow, there's another question. Nam to you. Yeah, wonderful, thank you very much. She says, what is your best advice for young people? Ooh, I've got a lot of that kind of stuff, because I love youth development as well. But my best advice for young people is, don't take. I know the education system is struggling just now, and there's a lot of people who haven't even got the benefits of a great education system. But don't take it for granted. Don't actually think that, even though the education system is very much flawed, it says, take everything you can from the education system, but build yourself. I at an early age, and not as early as I would have liked, but I actually at 17 I started reading personal development books and success stories and biographies of successful people, because if you can, as a young person, if you can start to use better language, to start associating with positive people, or be that positive person in your group, because it needs to start somewhere. And if you can, rather than read the newspaper or the news, change that. I haven't bought a newspaper for more than 30 odd years, and at the moment we haven't got a television either, but build yourself. And as a youth, ask for help. If you're struggling, if you're getting bullied, if you are struggling in a subject, if you are struggling because of any reason, find somebody you can ask for help. And at the same time, the best thing you can do for yourself, listen. Set yourself goals. Become intentional every day. Listen to positive material. Read positive material. Because we, at the moment, youth, I feel for them a lot, because they say, 65% of children that actually start school just now will have a job that doesn't even exist yet. But we can at least become great people. We become a great youth. So there is so much I can tell about youth, but if there's anything you're struggling with, the first thing is ask for help. Find somebody who can help you. There's so much about suicide rates in youth at the moment, which is it hurts to read the statistics of youth who don't know where to go anymore and what to do. So ask for help, read positive material, listen to positive material every day. Even start affirmations, because know as youth that you are loved. Know as youth that you matter. So how can we find mentors as young people? Well, one of the things, of course, is as far as the mentors, you can come into this classroom, and you are already here, of course, come into the classroom and find people. But there is, and maybe it might be sometimes rare in different areas, but find people that you can associate with in a place that you want to associate with, that, like, whether it's positive people, whether it's people in an area that you're interested in. Google. Find people who are, because it's amazing how many people will actually give you some time, some knowledge, and to actually help you on your way. People who are successful will encourage you to get better. But in short, and in this classroom, we hope to get more mentors in different areas who will be able to provide the skills and the tools that will help youth. Of course, we can't cover it all because there is so much of it, but we can at least help and guide each other. And if you know people who are good at what you want to do, if you know people who are positive, you associate with them. And maybe that's not, I read a lot of books which are my mentors in paperback, if you like. The Robin Sharmas, the John Maxwells, the Robert Kiyosaki's, there is so many of them. Earl Nightingale from long ago. These are some of my mentors. So if you need a mentor, sometimes it might have to start in a book until you can get to people personally. But there is a lot of help available. But let them look. Okay, I've just been reminded. I'm now just 5 minutes over time. So all I want to say is thank you for the questions. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any more questions or any more comments, leave them in the comments box, and I will do my best to actually answer them. And or one of our fellow mentors, if they have answers, they will do the same. There is at least 12 of us. Thank you for joining us. And Amy Carrier's classroom. There is 12 different areas, 7 days a week. You can find some of these videos will be in the classroom for, I don't know for how long they will be there, but at least for a few days afterwards they will be there. Share them with the people you know that can have it can have a positive influence on, or do you think it might be helpful for them? So share this and bring other people, bring your friends, bring your family, bring them to Amy Carrier's classroom. This is 100,000 people within the next year, and together we can make a difference. My name is Jan Robberts. I'm one of Amy Mentor's classroom mentors, and I wish you an amazing week ahead, and thank you for being with us tonight. Good night.